So, ladies and gentlemen, a long, long, long time ago in the history of my career as a daily and weekly journalist in New Brunswick, I was told by my employers, Brunswick News, based out of Moncton, that there would now be a quota system based on how many stories I was producing a week. Now, because I was sports editor and generating a lot of what they call beat coverage for the junior A and high school teams in my region, be it hockey or baseball or whatever, I had to plagiarize myself a lot to recap a season or a playoff series. But they told me to my face, well, that doesn't count as stories because you're using previous information in the story. You're not generating anything new. Well, I said, let me put this in perspective. John Fogerty won his case. If you want to discuss this in court, let's go to court. And the guy said, what do you mean, John Fogerty? And the other guy that was there with me in the meeting said, oh, you're talking about the old man down the road case. I said, yes, I am. He said, okay, well, you can plagiarize yourself. So thank you, John Fogerty. So this is the comeback song for the great lead singer of CCR. It was part of his comeback album, Center Field. He was eventually sued by his former record company for plagiarism because they felt the song sounded too much like a very iconic CCR chanson. Now, The Old Man Down the Road is a song by John Fogerty, released in December 1984 as a lead single from his comeback album, Center Field. It became Fogerty's only top 10 hit single as a solo artist, peaking at number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 and spending 3 weeks at the number 1 spot on the top rock tracks. Rolling Stone album guide critic Paul Evans regards the song, get this, as functional swamp rock. Billboard said it shows that Fogerty is still able to infuse a pulsing beat with deep swamp mysteriousness. Cashbox called it a hard-hitting roots rocker which wastes no notes and pulls no punches. Now, the iconic video of this, I don't want to give it away, but it's kind of a film noir and what they call backwards forwards video. Has to be seen to believe, one of the best videos of all time. Now, his last single was 9 years before, something called Almost Saturday Night. The video for the song features what appears to be, through a little trickery, an extended single camera sequence that follows a very long electric guitar chord through various scenes. Da 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 da. Now, Fogerty appears throughout the video 4 times as himself, standing next to a couple having a picnic, past a cheerleader on the phone, just when the bikers pull up to maybe rape her, near a woman hanging laundry, and at the very end playing guitar, and 2 other characters, the backwoods character at the very beginning of the video, and the old man with the dog in his lap towards the end of the video. Now, get this, ladies and gentlemen. It went number 10 in Australia, number 12 in Austria, number 22 in Belgium, Canada top 12, Netherlands top 35, New Zealand 11, Switzerland 27, UK number 90, US Billboard Hot 110, and West Germany number 49. Now, end of year charts, number 100 in Australia. Now, this lawsuit has been called, or a precedent case, called Fogerty versus Fantasy Incorporated. Now, the case, there's many things talked about the case, but I'm going to give a generalized version. Now, Saul Vance, the producer who won an Oscar later on, who was the owner of Fantasy Records, who owned CCR outright, said that Old Man Down the Road shared the same chorus as Run Through the Jungle, a song from Fogerty's early days with CCR years before. Now, Fogerty had relinquished copyrights and publishing rights of the Creedence songs as Ants and Fantasy in exchange for a release from his contractual obligations to them. Now, he said in published reports later on he was suckered, basically, that Saul Zantz did that so he could sue him if he ever decided to sing similar to CCR. That's why he used a pseudonym, I think it was called Blue Ridge Rangers, where he played all the songs, but it had that CCR split, but it wasn't supposed to be Fogerty. Now, Zantz sued, but the defendant Fogerty ultimately prevailed when he showed that the 2 songs were whole, separate, and distinct compositions. Bringing his guitar to the witness stand, he played excerpts from both songs, demonstrating that many songwriters, himself included, have distinctive styles that can make different compositions sound similar to less discerning ears. But how we read that under copyright law, you're allowed to plagiarize yourself. For example, Paul Simon, a lot of his songs, is using the same chord structure. When he was doing world music, there was sort of like the same type of beats. You look at AC/DC, you look at the Beatles. So, I mean, if you plagiarize yourself, like as a writer, I'll give you an example. If your employer says you got to create 20 new stories, well, if you cover game 1, game 2, game 3, game 4, game 5, game 7. Let's say I was doing a Montreal Canes versus Washington. Montreal lost the first game. Do a story in game 2. Oh, they're entering down 1-0. They lost game 2. They're entering game 3 down 2-0. They win game 3. They're entering game 4 down 2-1. That's original stories, but you have to repeat how you got there in the first place. See, you're not generating stuff, you're producing. It's a completely different ballgame. Now, when he prevailed as a defendant, Fogerty asked the court to require Zantz to pay for the attorney fees he had spent to defend himself against the copyright infringement claim. Now, in such copyright cases, the Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit required prevailing defendants seeking recompense to show that the original suit was frivolous or made in bad faith. This case, known as Fogerty versus Fantasy Incorporated, became precedent when the U.S. Supreme Court in 1993 overturned lower court rulings and decided that Fogerty could be awarded attorney's fees without having to show Zantz's original suit was frivolous. The lower courts then decided that Fogerty should be awarded his attorney fees, totaling $1,347,519.15. And he did a parody video, I think it was Claymation, Zantz Can Dance, and I think he sued over that too, but I can't really remember. So we look at some of the details of the the case. It was filed, I think, it was argued December 8, 1983, and decided 3 months later. Now, Chief Justice for this was William Rehnquist, of all people. He won the majority decision with Clarence Thomas doing against it. Now, when CCR disbanded in 1972, Fogerty began his solo career with another music label. Now, when he sued Fogerty for copyright infringement, he said it was essentially run through the jungle with new words. The case was litigated through a jury trial, and a jury found in Fogerty's favor, rejected the claim of infringement. And again, Fogerty then sought attorney fees as recompense, and the Ninth Court affirmed, adhering to the circuit precedent, setting different standards. Now, because of a circuit split about the court's appeals on the standards of awarding attorney's fees in copyright cases, the Supreme Court agreed to review the Ninth Circuit decision. Now, Chief Justice William Rehnquist wrote the court's opinion. He said he observed that the 76 Copyright Act provides that the district courts may be awarded a reasonable attorney's fee to the prevailing party, but does not set forth the criteria to be used in deciding whether or not to do so. Fantasy pointed out that the court had interpreted the identical language in Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, governing discrimination cases, and authorizing such awards to prevailing plaintiffs as a matter of course. Now, by contrast, the legislative history of the Copyright Act does not suggest that Congress intended to afford similar rights to persons whose copyrights have been infringed. Now, the idea of the judgment, Clarence Thomas didn't agree with it. Now, Clarence Thomas is an idiot. He wrote a separate opinion concurring the court's judgment, but not in the majority opinion. In Thomas's view, it was not possible to reconcile the holding of this case that the same standard should be used in making discretionary attorney fee awards to prevailing plaintiffs and prevailing defendants in copyright cases. Now, the idea about this, how it's interpreted now, is basically saying, if you create a piece of work and you sign away your rights, to that work, you do not sign away future rights to the interpretation of the songs. Now, I think this would apply as well to the Paul McCartney solo career in the 80s, and it might also appear I think at one point, didn't Michael Jackson change record labels from the Jackson 5s to the Jacksons to Michael Jackson? So basically saying, if you're a creator of an item, let's say, it's like this. If you write a story for your local newspaper and you became a bigger columnist and use your column name in the same thing, you don't sign up the rights to the name of the column, but you sign over the rights to the previous columns that were published. They can't sue you for running your column in another paper. I'll give you an example why. My column has appeared in corporation collectives and in independent newspapers. One of those columns was called Sports File. It appeared for the Irvings, it appeared for the Raymond family in Campbellton, New Brunswick, and the Cadogan family in Miramichi when it was published in Dalhousie. Well, I know Saul Zant's story. He was getting praise and praise and praise for being a producer, but he was fucking over John Fogerty on the side. And he really ruined John Fogerty's career. Good thing he came back. But The Old Man Down the Road, that's a top 50 song for rock and roll of all time. It's just tremendous. And we couldn't believe it. Like my dad and I were listening to the radio. Dad was a big John Fogerty fan. He said, Jesus Christ. He said, CCR is back. I said, no, Dad, it's John Fogerty. But I'm dedicating this podcast to my dear departed cousin, Sheldon Burton, from Jacket River and Gravel Hill, New Brunswick. died in what do you call it, a work accident on a lonely highway years ago, and he loved the song Center Field. He would go to concerts and parties and dances and going on the roster for the DJ and ask for Center Field, one of his favorite songs. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is for Sheldon. This is all for all my family in Gravelly, New Brunswick. My sister Valerie, all my cousins. My sister Valerie is the best dancer ever. She's 73, 74 now. She dances the CCR. But I told Valerie about this case months ago. I said, listen, I'm doing a new music column, and May is going to be dedicated to CCR. This is the first of a series. So thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Sheldon. Thank you, Anita. All my crew, Gravelin, Jackler, LaPointe, Corey Extended Family. And ladies and gentlemen, John Fogerty, my God, what a songwriter, what a presenter. And that album's great to say. You got Rock and Roll Girls is out of Center Field. But there was no internet like there is now. But back then, that case surely should have been broadcast live. You can imagine the Supreme Court asking the creator of the best swamp music of all time to get money back from a corporate bully, a pig like Saul's Ants, who had just won an Oscar. You know, truth is stranger than fiction. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing with Behind the Tracks, and we're doing this in May, I know it's a little bit early, but never too early to celebrate. Happy May Day this week. And in Canada, for those who were up till 5 o'clock this morning watching that push election where P.P. Polyev lost, Jagmeet Singh lost, Maxime Bernier lost, Elizabeth Way won. I think the Nardwar helped her out. But Mark Carney, the two-time governor of the Bank of Canada, the Bank of England, whose name was on her money some 15 years ago, truth is stranger than fiction. And for what I heard, he's a John Fogerty fan, so take it as you will. Have a good one. Don't forget, give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share.